Yeah, welcome back to the program. Now to a developing story that we currently do have. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has issued out the MPC rate this time around. My colleague George Rafi joins me in studio for the details regarding this. So George, what do we know regarding the announcement?
Well, what we know is that the rate that currently stands at 13.5%, it has been kept unchanged after the committee met through last week to today to determine what could be the cost of credit or what are they going to lend to commercial banks out there for the next 2 months. So the news is that the rate stands at 13.5%. It has not been changed. It's been kept at the same rate.
But what exactly went into this computation?
Well, the Bank of Ghana, or the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana argued that they still think that there is some threat to the recovery of the economy. If you've been watching the numbers closely, you've seen that there's been some sustained recovery in the economy. Now we have this third wave, and it's been confirmed by the Ghana Health Service. Even the president yesterday doing his report or assessment said that indeed we are in the third wave. And they are worried about what could be the impact of this third wave on the economy. Therefore, you want to be tactical and strategic in actually reviewing this rate. And this rate, Charles, is the rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks in the country. It goes a long way to influence the cost of credit. You also want to use the MPC as a tool to check the amount of money in circulation and improve credit as well. So do you want to push in credit so much that could impact on inflation, or you want to hold on a little bit? And they looked at this as one of the main reasons why they said, no, let's hold on. Also, when you look at the deficit as well, government missed out on the first 5 months of this year. And deficit has an impact on also on the amount of money in circulation in terms of spending. So they looked at that one and they thought that no, it might be prudent to hold on to this rate and therefore not take any actions that could destabilize the seemingly stability that we are seeing in the economy.
So as I said, a strategic move there. But for the investors out there watching, for the average Ghanaian who often, withdraws from the bank, goes for loans, what does this mean to them?
What this means, and the policy rate often influence the cost of credit in the country. So therefore, you may be assured that if a commercial bank A was basically looking at lending from the Bank of Ghana, nothing much might change going forward. Also, we shouldn't forget about the signaling effect of the policy rate, because for a lot of people, it gives us an indication what could happen in the next 2 months. What Bank of Ghana has done right now, it's more of showing us that some level of uncertainty ahead of us. So let's be a little bit cautious. If you want to do any serious lending, be very strategic on what you do as well in going forward. So for you, it means that, well, there are some threats ahead, so be a little bit careful in whatever you're doing. And also for the fact that if you're looking for lending going forward or fresh lending, don't expect any drastic reduction in that cost of credit to you as a businessman or as an individual.
George, many thanks for that update there. And we shall be, of course, delving deeper into this matter, especially when Professor Peter Korte of the Institute of Social and Statistical Research joins us via Zoom currently. Professor, we're so grateful that you joined us. You did hear from my colleague George Rafi on the announcement so far. How does, first of all, your reactions to this? Because we've heard so many economists saying that it could reduce marginally. Your reactions?
Yeah, good afternoon to your discerning viewers. I am not surprised at the announcement, because I was expecting that the rate would be maintained.
Okay.
For a few reasons. First, you look at the inflation outlook, you realize there's been some marginal food price increases, there's been some wage agitations, and of course, some marginal depreciations in the exchange rate. So all of this will tell you that either you maintain the rate or you increase it. I think there's no time to increase the rate, rather to maintain the rate, because if you reduce the rate, you're going to stimulate higher credit, and inflation can also kick in again, and you have higher rates of inflation. If you also look at the growth prospects, yes, the economy is picking up, growth has rebounded, and we see some expectation in terms of vaccine deployment. So that again is quite positive in terms of the growth side, and any attempts to change the rate at this time wouldn't augur well for the economy. I think maintaining the rate now is the best option.
So speaking of maintaining the rate, what about the prospect? Should we have this tangent in the next 6 months, the next year? Should this be the next, especially when we're having the third wave of COVID-19, its impact on our economic stretch?
Yeah, the third wave is imminent, but I think we ought to do what it takes. If we get a vaccine in, if we respect the protocols, I think we'll minimize the effects of the third wave and be able to grow at appreciable levels. So for me, the third wave, yes, is threatening, but it won't be a problem if we respect the protocols and we also get a vaccine in. And yesterday we had the president promising that we are likely to get more vaccines so that people will be vaccinated against the virus.
Great. Well, we shall keep an eye on the impact of this in the subsequent bulletins. But, Professor, one other issue on our table currently this afternoon is with the rising debt stock, 76.6% to GDP. What are you seeing within these figures?
We are not in normal times, but also the debt GDP ratio is on the high side. We are close to a debt distress classification, but I think there are some outlines or policy outlines in the budget. If you look at the 2021 budget, there are some policies that have been outlined to ensure that we move back to sustainable thresholds. And I believe going forward, here in the media review and subsequent budget presentations, where we should see improvement in our debt GDP ratio. Although you mentioned in your earlier submission that when the debt is shared, each Ghanaian is supposed to pay about 11,000 cedis. What it tells you is that if we are to pay all the debt now, that is what we are expected to pay. But I don't think any country pays its debt within 1 year. So we should be rest assured that is not the case. However, a higher debt GDP ratio is not what one country or one would expect. You expect your debt GDP ratio to be within sustainable levels. Otherwise, you spend more of your revenue financing debt, and you'll be left with very little money to finance development expenditures. And that is not the way to go.
But Professor Quartey, even ahead of the mid-year, budget review, the estimates, what about the issue about going austere measures to whip up revenue to ensure that the fiscal sides are much more stronger? From your perspective as an economist, is it a time for us to run an austere management of the economy?
In a pandemic, you don't run an austere budget. I mean, if you listen to other countries, UK, US, and the rest, they are spending. In a pandemic, you spend to revive the economy. Otherwise, you stay in a recession for a very long time. That is why the UK president in one time said, build, build, build. So basically, he's telling us, put in more money in infrastructure. Same with other countries. US is pumping in money, trying to revive the economy. That is why we have the COVID-19 alleviation fund, we have the CARES program. These are all measures meant to help us come out of recession, possible recession.
But do you feel the instrument?
But of course, you have to run an efficient budget to make sure you get value for money for your spending, but not an austere budget. Raise more revenue as you can, and also spend judiciously.
But do you feel the instruments being injected by government so far are efficient enough to, get us out of this mess?
They are to a large extent, but I think there is room for improvement. We've heard about digitization. That is a sure way to go so that we can rake in more revenue. At the moment, there's quite a lot of leakages, and until we block those leakages and raise more revenue, I think we'll be in that cycle where the financing gap is huge, and we have to resort to borrowing to meet our financing gap. We ought to move away from this cycle and raise more revenue domestically. That is the sure way to go. If you borrow to finance consumption, it is not appropriate. You borrow to finance investment so that you'll be able to repay your debt.
Well, so finally, before we let you go, a fellow economist, Dr. Prepra, has indicated, that government focused on arithmetic effect of taxation. He suggests that more focus on economic effect is not that good. Do you believe his assertion?
If you could come again.
A fellow economist is, suggesting, specific instrument. He says that government must not only focus on the arithmetic effect of taxation, but he's suggesting that more focus must be placed on the economic effect of it.
Yes, certainly, if you want to tax, you want to ensure that your taxation system is efficient, it's raising revenue, but also affecting the right places. So it's not just about an issue of raising revenue, getting the numbers right, but also ensuring that the other sectors, especially the productive sectors, are not heavily affected negatively, so that they can also generate the needed employment and output. I think that's certainly the argument. So don't impose taxes for the sake of raising more revenue, but also look at the ramifications or the effects of your tax on the key productive sectors of the economy, if they are being severely or negatively affected or not. That is the sure way to go.
Finally, Professor, we acknowledge your time here, but initially you talk about the consumption amidst COVID-19 and the need for more efficiency in the use of public funds. But how do we balance this going forward to ensure a brighter prospect?
Oh, certainly there are systems in place. I mean, if you want to spend, my argument is we need to have value for money. Let's use the systems, the procurement systems and the rest, and get value for money. We ought to spend. We cannot run away from that. Government certainly has to spend. But make sure, if we need to pick three entities, we need to go through the legal requirements. We don't circumvent certain measures in our spending so that we get value for money in whatever expenditure item we engage in.
Professor Peter Quartey, we're so grateful for your analysis as always. He's